early on in the kitchen session days, I would be sitting in some chair just kind of observing, and I would throw out a line, and they'd be like,
"What about avocado? That rhymes with rodeo." Like, no.
they would say, "Oh yeah, buddy, let's put
a pin in that.
Yeah.
Save it. Let's put it over here. Put a pin in that
it
one
right here on the fridge." No, but
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Well, hey, folks, welcome to another Something in the Water podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Uncle Dave Griffin, along with
Sean Clark.
And look out. Something's wrong with this picture. Over here on the couch, we got our guest, Mr. Alan Allnoch, or as y'all remember him from an earlier episode, Alan Americana Allnoch, and Mr. Connor Griffin. This is a special episode, and since that Alan is now the managing editor of the Okefenokee Living magazine. I had a copy when we were out in the kitchen, but I failed to bring it in. We'll get that in after the break, but how'd you get that job?
Well, the last time I was on the show as y'all's guest, and kind of turn the tables here, as you'll see in a minute, because I'll be doing some interviewing. But last time I was on, I was, and still am, a photographer here in town. I approached Okefenokee Living back in January, just looking for some more freelance work.
Okay.
Photography.
So it's a local magazine.
It's local, yeah. It's the publisher is called Showcase Publications. They're based in Jessup, and they have several other titles. They have Valdosta Magazine, Wayne County Magazine, and Okefenokee, which is, they're all really well done, nice glossy publications covering the local community. Okefenokee comes out twice a year. And
just two times a year.
Yeah, just twice a year. They do Valdosta 4 times a year, and the other ones they do twice a year.
Okay.
But a lot of really good local content, and I was impressed with the magazine, and just kind of emailed them out of the blue,
right,
asking if they had or needed any help on the editorial side, photography or writing, which I do both. And my timing was good. They were working on their spring issue at the time, and needed some help. And so I contributed several pieces to that issue.
Awesome.
And then it just kind of took off from there, started helping out in the other magazines. So we've grown that into, I'm still a contractor. It's not a full-time job, but taking on a role, more of an official role as managing editor. So this is the first full issue that I've worked on. It'll be coming out later in the fall. And one story idea I had right away was local music. Just knowing, really from knowing you guys, how much talent is around here. And there's really a lot of moving parts. I mean, you've got 2 festivals that you host, Dave, and Sean and Connor. You have a band you're in. Dave, you play live music and have for a long time. And then, of course, there's this podcast. And just kind of had the podcast is obviously called Something in the Water. There's a song called Something in the Water that I want to get into when we get a little further into this. A shirt. And so that theme is kind of what I was thinking this article will be about. The idea here is to interview you guys as the basis for the article. And also I want to have you put me in touch with some other artists and personalities. We're talking about Billy Ray earlier. And just get some suggestions for who else to talk to and get their perspective on this local music scene.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah. And this article is going to be, so the Okefenokee Living magazine comes out twice a year. What are the 2 publication months? Or
it kind of varies, but generally spring, like March, April-ish, and then fall.
Okay.
So this next one's going to be, I think we're looking at late October.
Okay.
And yeah, it's distributed around town. I think it might mail to some homes, but mainly you can just pick it up in businesses around town, and it covers.
Is it free?
It is. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's free. I think you can buy a subscription, but anywhere you can pick it up, it's free.
Pretty nice looking. Real
It
glossy,
is.
like you
It is
said,
a really nice
thick.
magazine.
Now, I've seen a lot of communities, small communities in America, doing this now. I don't know. I suppose that they sell ads.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
It's
that's
supported by ad revenue.
Supports the publication of
Right.
it and everything, but it's a very good looking magazine. Everything now in the digital age is good looking. But so this article that you're interviewing for tonight is going to come out in October.
Right.
Probably
Yeah, maybe
somewhere
early
in late
November or
October.
something like
Okay.
that.
Cool.
And we'll be
y'all
sure to
definitely want to be looking out for that at your local
Waycross
businesses
That's right.
in Waycross and surrounding areas there.
and you can update your audience when it's when it's out. And speaking of audiences, the audience for the magazine is they say Okefenokee Living. It's really they consider it a regional magazine, whereas like they have Wayne County Magazine, or just called Wayne Magazine, but that's just Wayne. This is Ware County and really the surrounding counties. So Pierce, Charlton, Clinch, Bacon,
Kind of
Coffee.
regional.
Yeah, kind of a regional. The whole idea of the Okefenokee swamp. I mean, it's south of us, but it's really kind of a region, and I think that ties in, especially well with the song and the theme.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I wanted to. Well, we'll get into that a little more specifically, but where I want to start is just kind of a personal question for each of you. What I mentioned before, just you guys are really immersed in music. I mean, I mentioned the groups you're involved in, the festivals, the podcast. So just kind of wanted to hear you talk about and what it means to each of you, to be such an integral part of the local music scene and the regional music scene.
You want me to start? Well,
I knew you would.
I feel honored to be still alive. I feel honored to be a part of anything at the age of, I'll be 60. At the airing of this podcast, I will have been 69 for about a month and a half. But the festival was kind of a thing that kind of fell in my lap, and but as you said, I have always immersed myself in music. I've grown up with music from the very beginning. I'm talking about, and everybody's heard me talk about that from 3-year-old listening to Hank Williams records of my daddy's, and then going on through growing up with popular music, and then making that round connection in the early 70s with country rock when Gram Parsons and all that music started coming out. But music, as a musician and songwriter, music's been my life. But the festival thing was more or less an idea that came about in 1998 and then blossomed into what it is now, 25 years later, Gram Parsons Guitar Pull and Tribute Festival, which is this weekend. As a matter of fact, the date that y'all are watching this for the first time, October 15th, we'll be winding it up out at the fairgrounds. And I feel honored to be a part of it. I feel like it's music is or the festival is less me and more about the Graham Parsons and the musicians involved in it. You know, that's what I want to push out there and make sure that all of that gets noticed. As far as my personal music, my own songs and songwriting, I love what I do, and I hope other people love it as well.
Good
We
stuff.
do.
Yeah.
You even wrote a jingle for Waycross, didn't you?
I did back.
Really?
That was year number. I can't even remember, the 80s maybe?
It was
90s? No, it was the 80s.
Was it part of an ad campaign? or
Yeah,
something?
the Chamber of Commerce had put out this thing. They were going through this thing, Waycross Wants You. And me and Billy Ray Herron he had a studio at the time, Hickory Wind Studios, and he and I were doing some work together, songwriting, and we decided we'd get into the jingle manufacturing, and we wrote a jingle for Waycross Wants You, and I didn't know if we was going to get into that. I'd have had a copy over here tonight. But we also sold one to American Travel Service, and I think that may have been our only 2 sales, but we had several pitches. One was Flash Foods. We pitched several different concepts to Flash Foods and different local businesses, but yeah, that was a good time.
And he wrote a jingle too.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all did a jingle?
I didn't write the jingle. I sang a jingle.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I thought you wrote it.
It was for Hog and Bones.
Oh,
Really?
There you go.
Okay.
But,
You know, what kind of
they
local
already
connections?
had Jason, the son, Jason Weathersby, had
Okay.
already had it written and everything, and he was actually singing on it. I was like, "That sounds fun." He's like, "I want you to sing it." So
I was talking
You
about
remember
the cat thing you showed me. I think that must have been something separate from Waycross. It was some kind of
cat.
animal.
That was for another podcast.
Okay.
A friend of mine, Gina King,
That's what it was, yeah.
that does a animal about cats and dogs and stuff. Pets podcast. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but
Cool. Sean, what about you? What's it mean to you to be able to call this your vocation, really?
yeah, it means a lot. I mean, at this point, I'm in it. It's like
For better or worse?
I've burned all the other bridges out of this. So, but I've just always enjoyed music, and I came along about the time videos and starting with like Night Flight, was it, or
Oh,
Night
man.
Tracks.
Night Tracks?
Yeah.
And
WTB.
there was something.
the
Flight.
USA?
WTBS.
Yeah.
The TBS?
And then Waycross finally got MTV. And, but I was like, that seems like a cool way to get girls and not have to run laps at football practice. And
Did you play football?
I did.
What? Hell.
I mean, not in high school, but
Okay.
Rec Center.
I did play tackle in elementary, I guess.
Okay.
Broke my arm twice, but I was like, heck with this. I'm no good at this. But I just always, even like as a teenager, playing out, got to be a part of this teen club we had, which is where Katie's is now. That was upstairs there. The bottom where Katie's Cafe was a cafe. It was called Cafe Sear or something down there, and then Club Sear or something was upstairs. But we would book bands from Jacksonville, and my band would play there. And I was the guy that got to book the bands and stuff, and we got to practice up there. It was pretty cool. And just always just been in music, and I've always wanted to make something happen with Waycross, and get people to pay attention to music because there's so much of it, and still struggling with that. But that's the whole thing with this podcast. And
Hey, it's getting there. It's making strides.
Yeah.
That's how we come up with something in the water. You know, there is something in the water here.
Well, let's go there because that's next on my list of questions. Because I want to use that to kind of set up the bigger picture question of what makes music around here special. But tell us about that song, how it came about. Was that did you write that solo or was it a co-write?
I wrote it solo.
How did it come about?
Well, a friend from Nashville was down, and he was just kept. And I've heard it, several times. People saying there's something in the water around here, with the bands and the music, and especially when they come to town when we're having a festival. And that's like the best time to be in Waycross to me. It's either the Grand Parsons Festival in the fall or the Swamp Town Get Down in the spring, and just that phrase got passed around a lot, and I was like, well, I'll write a song, about it. It doesn't really the song doesn't really spell out what it's about, but it's kind of vaguely about, how much talent there is around here.
Well, it has some clever references too.
I appreciate it.
Cypress knees.
Yeah, and the Waycross reference.
Yeah. Waycross veins.
Yeah. Finds its Waycross into your veins.
Yeah. I've always just tried to, when songwriting, try to, be vague and say what I mean without saying it and stuff like that.
Obtuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, about having
What
to
you
spell
trying to
it out.
say, Dave?
I like them old mathematical terms.
Well, question for any of you guys. What do you think makes music, what is it in the water? What makes music from here so special?
I think that it's just, especially when I was coming up, there wasn't all these devices and phones and computers, and it was just like, it was something to do. And to be in a small town, to learn how to play guitar, it seemed like a way of tapping into what was going on elsewhere. And for me anyway, it felt like an escape of being in this small town, because that's all I wanted to do was leave. Now all I want to do is stay here, but you have to leave to see what you got, But that's what it was for me. What was the question?
Well, yeah.
What makes
it special?
so
and as
special?
I'm listening to you guys and just thinking about, some of your influences, like Dave, when y'all first convened the Waycross Stagecoach, I think it was your first time together. Is that sort of?
Yeah, I remember that
combination of
night.
bands.
Or I don't remember that night.
Tom, so y'all did Tom Petty songs. I mean, very much a southern, a southern flavored
Right, yeah.
act. How much do you think the geography and the region plays into your sound, your songwriting, other acts?
I definitely think there's a spiritual aspect to it. I mean, because if you think about it, Graham Parsons, Tom Petty, all of these people we idolize came from in or around this area. Elvis passed through here. Can't even think of the guy's name.
Dale Shannon.
There we go.
Okay.
Charlie Parker. I mean, just all these different.
James Brown, Ray Charles.
Yeah, all these
it's all
different elements
Southern,
coming together.
Allman Brothers.
Well, back in the day, Waycross was on the main line. US 1 goes right through Waycross, and
Pre-interstate.
before the interstates were built in the late 50s, that was the artery that went from
If you wanted to get down East Florida,
Maine
you had to come through
Key
here.
West.
Yeah.
And it came right through Waycross. And I had the wonderful pleasure of growing up in this town in the 50s and 60s when that was still very vital. And a lot of my travels on the US 1 back in my childhood was reflective of that, with the motels and the gas stations and the billboards and the spectacular sideshows, the alligator farms or whatever, It was so kick ass. I mean, it was great for a kid, to be 4 years old, and seeing these big billboards of next stop, I can get some sunglasses with red and white stripes with pigs on the corners, you know. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you know, it was great. But like Connor was saying, the spirituality of it, you know, and there's something that goes deeper into that, maybe even a little more native and stuff. But you've seen documentaries and heard a lot of tales written about music towns like Memphis and, Winter Haven, you know, down around Graham Parsons' stomping grounds in Florida. Usually when music comes from a place, there's generally a river or a body of water close by. I don't know. I feel like that's a part of it. I mean, we're sitting right here on the edge of the Okefenokee Swamp. If that ain't a body of water.
Yeah.
Whew.
Very much so.
I'm telling you. And I think there's something primitive that comes out of all of that just you don't even know you have it, but it's warming around inside you, you know. And somehow it comes out.
Well, that makes me think of another, regional artist. I mean, he's got a national following, but from North Florida, J.J. Gray. And I think he calls his music like swamp music or something like that. And it's very, just that vibe has got that swampy feeling to it. Real bluesy, rock and roll.
And it is reflective of other music that we've all grown up listening to, of course, you know.
Yeah, it kind of builds on itself, doesn't it?
You can't help but have the influences of Hank Sr. and James Brown and Otis Redding and everybody that came before you, you know. But
yeah, I think like coming out of being a teenager, I was just trying to write. I've always tried to write when I play guitar or whatever, but I was trying to write stuff that I was listening to on MTV or on the radio or whatever. But the older I got and figuring out, okay, these guys got it from, and just backtracking everything to classic rock and to classic country, and then figuring out the Waycross connection to all this. And I just feel like I kept diving back until that's all I want. I want to make music that's native of here, this based off of everything else that was out of here,
Well, and I think y'all very much capture that spirit with the Pine Box Dwellers. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us how that came about. How long have y'all been together? And
about 10 years, I guess.
And
we're about on there. I think
next year
9 or 10 years. Yeah.
You've been through a few different iterations of that, right? I mean, 4-piece, 2-piece. Just kind of walk us through a brief history of the Pine Box Dwellers.
Okay, so I was solo for a while. I was in a band called Jack Cadillac for about 10 years. And then, people moved on, and I was just like, well, I'm playing solo now. So I played solo for years and steady writing songs, and that's when Jack Cadillac was more of an electric kind of vibe. And then I started playing these same songs acoustic by myself, and then writing more to go with that, and then recorded an album that never did get released, but I just kind of burnt CDs and passed it around, that I recorded over at Jesse Herron's house, and got friends to play on it. And then I was like, well, I got this album, I need to put a band together. And I got Jesse to play bass, and his nephew Ashton to play guitar, and then we were all playing already, and then we got Connor to come over and play some drums. Or did you come over immediately with the cajon?
No, I think there's two sides to that, because one time me, you, and my dad played at Loco's, and it was just kind of on a whim. I brought the cajon because it was small venue.
I think it was our gig, and then you brought your cajon along.
Yeah, and then one day me and Ashton were jamming together, him on guitar, me on drums, and Jesse, I think, overheard it and was like, how about let's give this guy a shot, you know? So
this guy we watched grow up since he was this big.
Who's your dad?
I don't know. You're Uncle Dave, so at this point I'm having an identity crisis.
Uncle Daddy.
That's baby Uncle Junior.
What the hell?
Yeah, we came up with that one weekend. And,
That's
Baby Uncle Junior
Baby
to
Uncle
the
Junior.
third.
yeah.
I'm confused like Larry King here.
What's the guy's son?
So we started playing, and you know, over time, people left, and we got other lead players, and it seemed like we went through 4 or 5 lead players there, and eventually got Jody Parrott, who played lap steel and harmonica, and he was with us for a while, and then COVID hit, and Jesse didn't want to go out and test the waters, and Jody's job, because of COVID, got more intense because they let other people go, and he took on their job. He was like, all of a sudden, he was over a lot more than he was, and so he kind of laid out, and me and Connor kind of
Carried on.
dog paddled, and you know, here we are. We still going on. Show must go on. I've always been about the show must go on. I don't care. You lost a leg, get up on the stage.
Yep.
You know?
And I've said this, and I've heard other people say it. Y'all sound like, as a twosome, a lot more than 2 guys. I mean,
Yeah.
you sound like you could be 4 or 5 guys.
You know, when the mamas and the papas sang together, there was 4 of them. When the mamas and the papas sang together, there was a 5th harmony that nobody could explain that would show itself.
Overtone.
Yeah, in audible. And that's the same thing with Pound Box 12. Y'all might be a duo, but it sounds like a crowd up there on stage. Y'all are doing it.
Try.
Yeah.
And we still bring in those other guys and some other friends too.
Yeah, you
time to
play.
time.
You were 4 or 5 of you at the Swamp Town Get Down, right?
Yeah. It was
That's most
us,
four.
and Jody and Jesse.
Yeah. So here, maybe a tough question, maybe not. I know you can't pigeonhole, you know, a music or a band, you know, into one style of music, you know, one band and one style of music. But if you had to describe the Pine Box Dwellers, like,
That's the thing we've been trying to do for 10 years.
Rick Astley.
Redheaded stepchild.
The first thing we come up with was Swampadelic.
all right,
I don't think that necessarily applies to us all the time, but we can definitely get Swampadelic. As long as you put swamp in there, it'll work. Like
that's right.
swamp stomp,
Swampabilly.
swamp grass, swamp rock, swamp whatever, and it's I don't know.
Swamp Mouse.
It's real earthy, I think, because of the acoustic and him being on the cajon, and just real simplistic and minimalist approach to what can we do with the least possible. And, that's just always that hadn't always been our thing, but that or my thing.
kind
but
of-
it's become that with the band. In the beginning, Connor was playing drums at the bigger gigs and cajon at the smaller gigs, but every time he brought that cajon out, everybody was like, "What is that?
Yeah.
And how are you doing that?"
Man, if I could get paid as many times as I get that question, like, what the heck are you beating on right there?
It's novel.
And they're more popular these days, but the way you play it is nobody's ever seen. It's like Jimi Hendrix on the guitar, like nobody's ever seen it like played like
his
that.
style.
I didn't have any kind of formal training on it.
Yeah.
I saw my percussion director in high school pull it out, and he started drumming on it. I was like, dude, I need that, you know? And
Well, you see a lot of people playing it like that
that's the
With their
traditional
hands.
way, yeah.
with their hands and everything, but you broke them.
Brushes,
Brushes.
cajon brushes.
It gave me so many backaches and sore palms. I'd have to like, lean down and
Hey, you got all that
You know.
worked out now?
yeah.
But even with the brushes, like I think you're the only one that holds them the way you hold them. Like nobody else like
You hold them the traditional
everybody else
way,
holds
don't you?
holds them like drumsticks where they're coming
you
up
Hold them
here,
in between these
You hold on the left.
middle
and he's got them
and
coming down
ring
like,
fingers.
Oh, okay.
and nobody can play as fast as you. So I think you're on something with that.
What did you
Hope so.
come up? Did you learn a traditional drum set? Were you in high school band?
Yeah, I was in high school band, and ever since middle school, I played percussion, and then high school, I went into the drum line. So I think largely my approach to drum set, once I started playing that, was rudimentary. Like, I don't even know if I'm using that right, but as far as drumline playing goes, you're doing a lot of paradiddles and flams and all that stuff. So I just kind of took that single style playing and took it all over the drum set. And I guess that's what I did with the cajon too.
When you were taught from middle school on, the grip that you used, was it like that or like that?
It wasn't the traditional grip that most people are familiar
The
with.
left hand being straddled right here. That's the way I learned. Back in high school.
It was the fulcrum. You have your index finger and your thumb, and you wrap your the rest of your hand around it, and then you just hold both drumsticks like this. But with the cajon, the way I'm playing it, instead of striking a surface that's
horizontal.
Yeah, horizontal.
You're vertical.
I'm having to go vertically. So I had to kind of adapt to it. And
No wonder.
And you do all that while you're singing too.
Yeah.
Which I think is super impressive.
Thank you.
Singing harmonies.
He's so much more of a drummer than I ever was.
Hey, but you were section leader.
I was first
had
chair
that under your
snare
belt.
for 3 years, and I was governor's honors program 1 year. But I could play the hell out of one drum. You could put me on a set of drums, and I could do boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, over and over, like a polka.
Yeah.
But give it some soul, and to sing on top of it, give me a break. You just got it. I'm so happy.
How long ago was it when you introduced the cajon into the band?
It was
Right away.
Was it
Way early. Yeah, it was in the
Okay.
beginning.
We did a lot of just practicing with that because
right.
it was easier to practice on that than set
2013.
up the drums.
And plus, the name came from.
Well, yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
It immediately started, like I said, people were more drawn to the cajon, and that was like making us stand out amongst everybody else. And I was like, we really need to lean into this. And I think like people like Jesse and they were like, no, we need the drums.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, he's a bass player.
yeah, people didn't want to let go of the full drums. So I was like, I'm telling you guys, this is what's going to make us different.
Yep.
And then come up with I wanted something with box in the name, and then I thought pine box. I was like, well, that's a coffin,
morbid.
And we're in the swamp, and it's just like, oh, I hear banjos. I wanted
Double
to
meaning.
that started this whole creepy vibe of like, oh, and I was coming up with stuff like pine box rockers and whatever, and it was my wife that was like, that's cheesy, and then one day she yelled at me, pine box dwellers, and I was like, that's it,
Yeah.
that's it.
Thank you, Bess.
That's where you live. You live in that.
Yeah.
Who's your wife?
Bess.
Bess, I hope you're watching.
Little Bessie girl I once
Little
knew.
Bessie girl I once knew.
And you guys, like Sean, you play some solo gigs, right?
Yeah.
And Dave, you do. I know you still do some of that. But let's talk about your super group you formed, your occasional super group, the Waycross Stagecoach.
It's like a traveling road
A
show.
traveling show,
Yeah, boy,
variety
that's,
show.
a medicine show.
Yeah.
That's a throwback to the ancient age of vaudeville forward, to even early television when they used to have variety shows on there. And Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show. It's everything. It's circuses. It's revivals. and you can hear our intro to that when we go play out live. If you ever get the opportunity to hear that online or live, you'll see that's kind of what it's all about. You know, it's minstrel shows, it's snake oil medicine men, it's revivals, it's circus, it's music, you know, all wound into one little thing, you know,
and the idea is to get several artists, several different acts together on one stage, right? And then y'all have picked a theme.
Yeah, like Dave's like the ringleader host, and
I'll come out and play a set of my songs, and then the next act will come out and play their sets, and so forth and so on. So 3 or 4 artists will play. And then at the end of the night, we come back and it's a blowout. It's a finale tribute to Tom Petty, the Beatles, country music.
And we're all on stage together.
We're all on stage together.
We'll pick a theme to like, the original idea was let's just all come together at the end and we'll play. And I was like, well, that can be a theme of, you know, let's do this artist or that artist or this genre. And that'll be something else to drag people out.
How do you decide on the theme?
We just kind of throw out our influences, you know.
We'll get a Facebook thread messenger going and, well, what about this? What about that? Well, then we'll narrow it down to something.
Yeah.
Then start picking who's going to sing what.
How many of these have y'all done to date?
February, March. Did we do one in April?
I can't remember months like that.
We did Tom
in
Petty, William Whalen, the Beatles,
Georgia Music,
right?
We did that twice. We did it at the.
So we're probably on our 7th. One.
And you've got one coming up. Well,
this
by the time
weekend. It'll be already be.
Yeah. Oh, we got one coming up.
Yeah.
As of this broadcast, in about 2 weeks in Athens, it's going to be a scorcher. Have mercy, happy Halloween.
Yeah.
It's going to be at the Nowhere Bar. It's going to be costumes only. No, it's probably going to be costumes welcome, but it's going to be Pine Box Dwellers, Ty Manning, Fester Haygood, myself, and we're going to be doing a tribute to dead rock stars or dead artists or something.
Perfect.
I didn't know we decided.
I think that's what we decided already.
Yeah. Something like that.
That covers a lot of ground, dead artists.
That's all the good ones.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be doing, what's that dead guy's name?
Buddy Holly.
Yeah, no.
Elvis.
You going to do your Tom Petty thing?
Is he dead?
Yeah, you going to dress up like Tom Petty again?
I never did it the first time, but I was too far gone. And I think this might be a way to salvage that.
You redeem yourself?
I'll dress up like Tom Petty in Athens, Georgia. By God, it's on. But, yeah, that's coming up, folks. You can check it out online at Facebook. We've got a Uncle Dave's Waycross Stagecoach page on Facebook.
And on
you can
Instagram.
go there and see all of the carrying-ons. And you can find our ticket link to the Nowhere Bar. Go ahead and get your spot lined up because it's going to be packed out.
And I know on a recent podcast, y'all talked some about the CD, you guys, the Pine Box Dwellers, having the works. Just kind of run through what recorded works y'all have out there. And also you, Dave, you've got some stuff you've put to CD or vinyl.
With the Pine Box Dwellers, the first time we had an album, we'd recorded some stuff with Jesse's, like demo stuff. But we went to Nashville and to the House of David Studios and recorded our first album. And after that, we recorded here at Caution Light Media, but actually at the old location. and that was our second album. That was the first album was Pine Box Dweller, self-titled, and then the one we did with Justin was Desperate Days and Longing Nights, and those are both up on streaming services everywhere, and or you can get a CD.
Can you order through your website also?
You can. We're all out of 8 tracks, but we still got some CDs. And with this new album, we've recorded up in Athens at Tweed Recording, and everything's done with it. It's sounding really good, and we're just kind of in negotiations to see if we can get somebody to put this thing out for us instead of us doing it by ourselves, and try to make some more ripples with it. But hopefully it'll be soon.
Does it have a name yet?
Yes,
Drifters Blues.
Drifters Blues, unless we decide to change it.
Yeah.
I think
We've gone through all kinds of name changes since the beginning, and on each of them we're like, yeah, that's it. And then next week we're like, how about maybe this, you know?
Well, something will come out like somebody else's album. I'm like, that's too close to this. Or
And Dave, what music do you have out there?
Well, I recorded my first and only CD, original music, back in released in 2010. It was called American Spirit. It's an 8-song CD, and because of that, I wanted to put out my next CD. I wanted to put out with more songs on it, and I got a call from the great North Georgia fiddle player Levi Lowry out of Decula, Georgia. Levi co-wrote Colder Weather with Zach Brown Band, and just a great songwriter. And he was interested in recording my second CD way back in 2017, and I am the world's most famous. What is that called when you put things off?
procrastinator.
I'm the world's most famous procrastinator, because that album still ain't out, and it's got like 15 songs on it.
Well, it's very good.
And and already since 2017, I've wrote a hell of a lot more songs.
Yeah, just put it out, man. It's
so
ready.
Just got to get on
might
the
become a
ball
double album.
and just do it. You know, just do it. But yeah, I'm gonna have my second album out in 12 years later. Here, sooner or later, I plan to have it out before I pass.
Now that first album, it's on all the streaming services, but it's not Dave Griffin. It's
Uncle Dave and the Young'uns. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
American
That's how you
Spirit.
find
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
It's on Spotify and CD Baby, and several of the others. But it's good. It'll shave your legs, and it'll change your life.
Then even before that, back in 2007, was it?
The Newfanglers.
Yes.
The Newfanglers.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought there was another CD.
That was another It was a symbiotic thing. You know, me and this guy. Oh, excuse me. I thought we was in the van for a minute.
Stand by your van.
Me and this guy have been hell.
We've been to hell.
I have met you way back. My nephew Graham introduced us.
I was 22.
The late 90s. And from the first Graham Parsons guitar pull in the backyard in 1998, the first one, he was there with his band. And we've been thick as thieves ever since. And we just, he saved my life many times. And we've written a lot of songs together. And we just share a lot of closeness. And
you want me to take this story over? You in a ditch?
No, I'm not. I'm just being honest. I'm sure. I love this guy right here. We share a lot of things, close things, and we've been
That's
writing.
my shirt.
We've been writing songs together, and he's given my boy a job. And we do this podcast together. And we're just old pals now. God knows when did we meet? 1997.
I was 22, whatever year it was.
74, 22 would have been 1996. So from 96 to 2022, that's a long time, boys and girls. And we've been right there hanging out, playing gigs, writing songs, and doing it all.
When you spend that much time together, that infuses some songwriting, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I can't write with everybody.
Yeah.
No, I can't. Co-writing is
It's an art.
it's a
To it.
tricky
That's what I've
slope.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to
You don't just sit down with somebody and write something that you can be proud of.
Right.
it's hard to get on the same page with somebody.
Being this guy, we can do it, and it makes me happy.
There's an interesting story. I forget which CD. I'm sure he recorded more than one live CD, but it's a John Prine live CD. And he talks about he's introducing a song, and he said he co-wrote it. I forget who the co-writer was, but he said, I usually don't like to co-write because of that very reason. He said it's hard to get on the same page. But he said we would sit across from the table one another and said we had a theme, and he's writing and I'm writing, and you just gotta hope you're writing about something that will come together. And he said, well, this one worked out. He said, here it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but we just like to, we're just kind of bounce off, boom, boom. Okay, line, I got a line. You got a line, I got a line, kind of thing.
And then sometimes it's
And you're
one of
in
y'all
there on
has-
some of them.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, some
you
of them,
part
yeah.
of that process.
more so lately than any time. Used to be, I wish I were a part of the process.
He's earning his wings here lately.
Yeah. Early on in the kitchen session days, I would be sitting in some chair just kind of observing, and I would throw out a line, and they'd
Connor
be
be like,
like,
"What about avocado? That rhymes with rodeo." I'm like, no,
they would say, "Oh, yeah, buddy, let's
let's put a pin in that and save it. Let's put it over here. Put a pin in that
put it
one.
right here on the fridge." No, but lately, me and Sean will be writing songs together, and then we'll get my dad in on it. And
Connor's been writing
it's a
some
good process.
real good ones here lately.
That's
I
awesome.
hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got one that gets request. I think that's the one that gets most requested here lately. I'm like, well, I got songs
Yeah. Already gone.
already gone.
Already gone.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah.
People are loving that one.
The Eagles made a big hit out of it.
Yeah, they stole my thing.
I call it amongst the years, and that's not even anything to do with it. It's just like I can't ever remember already gone, even though it's already a song.
Well, this is the gist of it. I think this kind of ties it all back to something in the water. Everything we just said, is the fact that he's the youngest of the group, and he came up in it and observed it all, and it filtered into him from the environmental, from the outdoors to the indoors, and it all, that's what he grew up with. And it just keeps on keeping on. That's the something in the water right there.
You were kind of my teacher. I'd been writing songs, but I wouldn't say good songs until I met you, and it's like, I got to step it up, and started. I never had anybody to talk to about it because I was like the only person.
But the funny thing is, I felt like I started seriously writing songs after I met y'all.
Yeah.
So that's the thing where it just kind of like it's just two waves crashed together,
It's like
it was almost like
friendly competition kind of.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't even call it that. I would say we both influenced each other. We influenced from what I grew up doing and knowing as my personal songwriting experience, you know, when it collided with y'all's, it became real, you know, more real for me because y'all were coming from a whole nother thing, you know. I grew up listening to pop music, you know.
Yeah.
The 60s, Four Seasons, Into the Beatles, Beyond the Beatles, you know, and
but that was where
y'all went, but my roots was Hank Singer, my daddy's albums. Y'all went and dug further back than that. And y'all were coming up with these blues influences that I had the same opportunity to draw from, but I didn't until y'all. So that's the differing, that's my take on it. Y'all just came at me with, y'all were coming at me with some realism, and I was still writing fantasies and stuff, you know.
I think it was a lot for us. It was early 90s and the, you know, grunge or alternative rock was something that was changing, and what changed about from the 80s rock to that was they started going back to sounding or trying to imitate the 60s and the 70s, and we could hear that and then we're like, well, and then we were doing the research of, oh, this is like a Beatles song, or this is like a Neil Young song, this is like, and then we started listening to that stuff and those albums, and you were schooling us on that too, and so it was just like,
it's weird. It's like songwriting takes on a whole new shape or form when it's introduced to those other worlds. You know, you could be writing, like you said, mostly early 60s pop music, Beatles, beyond Beatles, and then here y'all come, and for me personally, y'all showed me all kinds of different great country music, and even the more modern artists like Daniel Romano.
But I never even listened to much country at all until I met your dad.
Yeah.
So it's like him introduced me to the genre of, this is what you like, this is what is not good, this is the good stuff, and whatever. And then I would find new artists that sounded like that and what have you.
Yeah.
But ain't that what it
what it's all about?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you got old influence and young influence and old, and the changing of the times. And
I miss, like, you know, pre-internet, where on a weekend I would drive to Jacksonville and go to the CD stores and just flip. This looks cool, I'll buy this, and then not be able to listen to it till you get all the way back to Waycross.
I was doing the exact same thing with albums.
This is horrible. This is awesome. And it was always a badge of honor to be like, I found this, and now everybody's listening.
And the streaming services don't really do it right. They'll try to match your taste.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll be like, recommended for you.
But
Yeah, just because I like that doesn't mean, you know.
It seems weird to like, before you had, like, it just, you can listen to anything at the touch of a button now. And I can't think of what I want to listen to.
Exactly.
But back then, it's like, I know exactly what I want to hear right now. I'd get that album out and listen to it.
Yeah.
And you had to work for it a little bit.
Yeah.
You had to flip it over. You had to place the
Like,
needle.
and I could listen to it over and over, but like,
I had to used to get up and change my TV channel.
Right.
Yeah.
we did too.
These days it's too easy, and it
You know
becomes the paradox of choice. It's like, it's so easy that you're sitting there racking your brain like, well, I listened to this yesterday.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Used to be, you could say, I want to hear this album right now.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you've got the paradox of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like you sit there and you argue with your brain
Yeah.
for about 10 minutes, and then you decide, I'm not listening to any damn thing.
And sometimes I get that way. I'm trying to picked some music to listen to while I'm driving home or something, and then I'll be like, whatever, I'll just listen to a podcast.
Too much work.
Yeah. I'm the same way with movies. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I hadn't seen that yet.
Same
I haven't
thing.
seen that yet.
Yeah.
It's like there's too many options.
Too
It's
much.
like we need to
Too much. Yeah.
less
You
is
know,
more.
I like rhythm. I love rhythm. I don't like algorithm. Folks, we're going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back.
Something in my brain won't let me stray. Something in my veins gonna find its way. Something in the water taught me how to pray. When that cold black water finds its way into your veins, you'll never be the same.
Well, we're back, folks, and our guest is Allnoch. We're having a good time here.
Yes,
Thank
we
you
are.
for being our guest tonight, and we appreciate you doing the article for. Well, I went and found the
There you go.
Okefenokee Living magazine, folks. Hey,
Yeah, that's
There it
the
is.
spring 2022 issue, and fall 2022 is when the article on the local music scene will be out.
Cool. Can't wait.
it's a quality magazine, well put together, beautiful pictures of folks in and around this area. Right,
That's right.
there's brides and grooms and
Houses and
houses and.
local personalities.
You can
Local
get some X-ray
personality.
glasses in the back.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of folks that I know in this issue right here already. So cool. Yeah. All right. So we got an article that our managing editor Alan Allnoch is going to be putting together for the October magazine, which should be out about the time of this podcast or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, maybe late October,
Yeah.
early November.
So I will say, carry on.
Yeah, well, I think it's been an interesting conversation so far, and early on we touched a little bit on the music festivals, but I want to hear a little more about that. Talking about the Graham Parsons guitar pull in the fall, and then the Swamptown Get Down in the spring. And Dave, I know you've kind of told the story, especially of the Graham Parsons Festival on this show. But if you want to give just kind of a quick overview of how that came about, and also how the Swamptown Get Down came about, and then we'll follow up with a little more.
Yeah,
from
well,
there.
1998, my wife and I went downtown and we ran into an old music buddy of mine at a local nightclub, and he said the same old thing that I've heard many a time is we need to get together and pick sometime. And as we were riding home, I told Lynn, my wife, I said, that is such a hollow exclamation. It's like most people say, how you doing? And they don't mean it. It's like, how you doing? Fine. It's just like a way to pass somebody on the street. This was the same old thing between musicians. We need to get together and pick sometime. Yeah, we do. And nobody did that. Nobody ever took advantage of it.
Follow through with it.
Yeah, followed through with it. So I told Lynn, I said, we're going to do something about that. And that's where the first annual guitar pull came into play in 98.
In your backyard.
in your backyard,
In the
right?
backyard. We had it in the backyard for 4 years. And then so many people on that fourth year in 2001 that we pushed it into the public domain in 2002. And it's been there ever since. And it's grown into a 3-day outdoor music festival held at the Okefenokee Fairgrounds. And we've had some stellar headliners over the years. It's just been wonderful. Leon Russell, Kentucky Headhunters, Marty Stewart and the Fabulous Superlatives, Firefall. I mean, one after the other. I could name them all. And there's been special memories. Each one of them, I can't call one year the best. I cannot do it because every year there's been just a standout memory. It's so much fun. folks. So I love what our Paul Campbell and Laureen Flanders from Mobile, Alabama, who have been coming for about 10 years now, said about it. They said it's the least pretentious music festival that you've ever been to. He said it's the best little music festival you've never been to. So if that's the case with y'all, I urge you to come out. Now, the other one that spun out of the Graham Parsons Guitar Pool was in 2010, after the guitar pool. We had Jody Parrott and probably you and several others were backstage after we were licking our wounds and enjoying the harmony of another year. And y'all all came to me and said, Uncle Dave, this is too much fun. We got to do it twice a year. Yeah. I said, what? I was thinking, it's a lot of work, y'all. Yeah. And they said, we'll help you. And so then became a whole nother thing. Then there was a cast and a crew and a staff and a stew and a bunch of people starting to lend their hand. And in 2011, in mid-March, we had the first annual Swamptown Get Down Music and Arts Festival, which is different, totally different from Graham Parsons. Graham Parsons, of course, everybody knows, was country rock and kind of centering on that primarily. But with Swamptown Get Down, it's very eclectic. It's everything from reggae. Well, we haven't got totally into rap yet, but we've got reggae to
rock, country,
indie, electronica. Mm-hmm. One-man band like Zach Deputy, who layers his stuff out there on loop machines and stuff.
A little bit of jazz.
Just we've got it all in that, and we've tried to center on the original music in the Southeast, North Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and Carolinas. We try to get as many original artists as we can in there. Jam band, and that kind of stuff. And we're approaching our 13th year on that one next year. So it's been a good ride. I'll tell you, it's been a lot of fun.
And the Graham Parsons Festival guitar pool plans are back on for another one this year, right? Post-COVID.
It is, and
I guess by the time this comes out,
as of this podcast, we're on our last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Yeah, catch us next year.
If you missed
it. If you didn't make it, you missed Blackberry Smoke. You missed
Charlie Starr
and Benji Shanks of Blackberry Smoke, and you missed Ian Dunlop in his magnificent glory,
and Larry Murray.
Larry unfortunately couldn't make it this year, but but we are looking forward to having him back again next year.
Well, you guys, I know Dave, you said it's hard to pick any one memory, but what about you guys? And if you have anything that does stand out you want to share, but Sean and Connor, you've been around this a lot too. Do you have any favorite memories or moments, or just one moment where you say, I'll never forget when that happened, or favorite acts that you saw?
I think I said this a while ago when we were on break, but Dr. Ralph Stanley on stage and me sitting literally right in front of him on the grass, and nobody's in front. I mean, it's just like, there's plenty of people behind me, but there's nobody between me and him, and he's singing "Oh Death."
Oh man!
And
I was behind you. I was hauling ass on the golf
everybody.
cart, trying to get up to the stage to see Ralph Stanley.
I can't believe this is going down
Yeah.
in Waycross, Georgia.
Just him up there doing that acapella.
Acapella.
Yeah, and seeing Charlie Louvin there,
That was neat.
Jim White, Marty Stewart, just Sneaky Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Me introducing him wrong.
Oh yeah, tell that.
Yeah,
Sneaky
That's
Pete had
another
a
story.
band
I didn't do it
at
on
the
purpose.
time called Burrito Deluxe.
Burrito Deluxe, and we
You were
on
in the
the
band before him.
Yeah, but we were on a side stage, and I broke a string first song, so the whole set just was chaos and stress. And then I had to introduce them, and I said Dorito Deluxe instead of Burrito Deluxe.
It's the old flip flopping of the consonants.
Yeah.
And everybody's just looking at me like, you.
You know what? I guarantee you, over half the crowd didn't even catch it.
I still have nightmares about it.
That's one of those you wake up to.
That ended up being his last, as far as I know, that ended up being his last performance before he passed. And I introduced him wrong.
Well, he was Sneaky Pete was also suffering from some
Dementia?
and issues like that. So
Maybe he didn't hear it.
he probably didn't even hear it, so that was very cool. I mean, that was just something that we can say on a podcast and laugh about,
What about you, Connor? You
Connor has been there.
up on the stage as a little kid.
Yeah, you've grown
Man.
up.
All right, in 1998, the first year we had it in the backyard, you would have been 5.
Yeah.
And you were there.
I was a big Beatles fan back then too. And they decided, okay, we're going to play the anthology CD, which had basically a karaoke track. It was the backing track with
The instrumental track for
Isolated.
Within You, Without You.
yeah. And I got up there and sang in the British accent and everything like I knew what I was doing. And everybody was like,
Who's
what
this
is
little kid?
this? You know?
Who is this kid?
But something that I'll never forget is watching Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives play. On one of their last songs, I think it was an acoustic number, the whole band, including the drummer, all kind of got to one part of the stage, all front and center. And the drummer had his snare drum attached to his hip or something, and he had some brushes he was playing along with, and that blew me away.
Well, the Revolutionary War kind of thing.
Yeah. And then another memory from that same night, I was standing next to a woman who shall remain nameless. But in between songs, Marty Stewart was trying to say something, and she goes, "It's my birthday!" And I just went, like Marty, please don't associate me with this person. And he goes, really? And she had this like bun, going on. And he goes, well, happy birthday, knothead. Like, not missing a beat. And I was like, I think I clapped after that. I was like, yes, thank you.
Birthday not here.
She was persistent. I remember that.
Yeah.
We've had some good times and some better times out there. But we ain't never had any bad times. We've had some suspect times. There's been times I think we've had a naked woman in the campground at one festival and a naked man in the fairgrounds. This was well after hours when all of the children were gone.
Thank God they weren't there at the same time.
Oh, boy.
Thank God. Yeah.
I think I heard the story of the second one.
Yeah.
Did y'all have to pin him down or something?
No, there was this
they
guy.
did. They caught him and they they didn't lasso him. They rodeoed him to the ground. And
Right. I remember at the end of it all, when the police finally came and they were loading him up, we could hear him.
we had police out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we could hear.
The ambulance came.
Yeah, what he was saying, he was speaking in spurts, like, and none of it made sense. He was saying like, bacon, circle, triangle, like running backwards. And then they were loading him up in the ambulance, and out of nowhere we hear, Willie Nelson, asshole.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh God, that's
Get this guy out of here. Nobody calls Willie an asshole.
Yeah, that's when April Herndon broke bad.
Yeah, that was who I heard the story from.
Yeah. Well, not folks. This is like late night, early morning stuff, and we don't have
brown acid.
We don't ever have any. We don't ever have any. That's the magic of these festivals is that they come off
in 20-something years. That's all we got to talk about
without a kink.
Yes,
I mean, there's been one cat fight in between the back of the stage and the bathrooms between two women. And that's been basically a spider bite, and maybe somebody got something in their eye one time. That's been about the highlights of that
There's
special.
been no viral moments.
As a concert promoter, you have to say thank you.
Yeah.
But one of my standout memories, and I've had a lot of them, God knows, but is I walked Leon Russell from his bus to the behind the stage to the stage, and he was with a cane and everything. Leon didn't say too much because he pulled out his hearing. He was short of hearing, and he pulled out his hearing aids to play on stage. And
because
so
he would put his ear monitors in once he got up there.
Right. And
But in between, he's just nothing.
Yeah. So we didn't talk or anything, but I got to escort the master of space and time for 15 feet. And I can always have that. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was one of my, the year we had Jay Farrar from Sunvolt. And I'll never forget, I was backstage, and I'll generally try to introduce all the acts, you know. Sometimes I fall down on that, but I went from backstage to the stage and got out there and noticed this unbelievable swell of people in the audience. I mean, from the front of the stage all the way back to the soundboard, and that's probably about 30 feet full of people. And that was one of my nicest memories. You know, it's like, when you do something like this, you don't do it for yourself. You don't do it for fame and fortune or anything like that. You don't do it. That sounds a little bit gaudy, but you don't do it for the economical reasons. You do it because your heart's in it, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's if anybody once I'm gone, and if this still wants to go on, if anybody carries it on, I want you to think about that. Do it from here, you know. And but that was a night that I recognized that, wow, there's a lot of folks here that love music, you know, and they're there, and I can see them all, and that feels good.
You can see it's having an impact on people. Because they're, I've said this, I've written this, there's power in live music. And you get people together, and it's community. And that actually kind of leads to my last question, and then we'll hear from Dave with a tale of the week. But we talked about some big name acts that have come here, and then there's some more local and regional, all highly talented, a lot of great talent all around. If you were talking to somebody either locally or from out of town, but just what would you say that they might, if they don't know about Swamp Town Get Down or Graham Parsons Guitar Pool, what would you say that to convince them they're missing out on something special?
Well, I tell people all the time that if you're ever going to come to Waycross, those are the 2 times that I would suggest coming.
Yeah.
And people who end up coming during those times that have never been here, they're like, "We're moving here next week." And I'm like, "Well, you might want to." I mean, it's a great place, but it's not as cool as those 2 weeks right there. And it's just a good time. And it's not, like he said, like Paul Campbell said, it's not pretentious. It's not like you go to some festivals and it just seems real put on or whatever, and it's not that at all. It's all from the heart, and it's a good time. I mean, I've never been to another festival like it.
Right.
Like
To
you're
echo
doing.
what he's saying, a lot of the other festivals I've been to almost seem scripted. You know, like, thank you for coming out here tonight to see all of us. And it's almost like they're basking in their own glory, you know. Not say that about all festivals, but here it's just, thank you for coming. Here's the next band. Hope you have a good time. And that's really all that it boils down to. We're trying to put on a show that we hope everybody relates to and something they can take home with them, you know, and they always do.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, you want to have the last word?
I guess it kind of goes back to Paul Campbell. You know, him and his wife Laureen Flanders, they kind of put it so perfectly, you know, and that is the best little music festival that you've never been to. It is very unpretentious. It's all from the heart, and the backbone of these music festivals, especially the Graham Parsons Guitar Pool, are the supporting acts. All of those non-headliner acts that travel from across the United States, California, New York, Canada, all over the place, of their own volition. They don't get paid. I give them a motel room, try to comp a meal for them, and that's been the procedure from the very beginning in 2002. But they come because of Graham Parsons. This was Graham's hometown. They're big Graham fans, and they come to play on the stage in his hometown. And I'm telling you, you talking about from the heart, that's what this festival's all about, is them. And
That's
I
awesome.
hope that if you're hearing this for the first time, I hope you'll join us next year. Or at Swamptown Get Down as well. Because we do have a good time.
Very good.
Well, with that, I'm going to do a little tale of the week for you right now, folks. And this is a little, some blogs that I wrote back in, a few years back. And I forgot my readers tonight, but I'm going to do my best. And this is a quote from Uncle Dave to lead off this tale. We were playing a New Year's Eve party at the Alma Exchange Club building when I saw the colorful Christmas lights left over in the far dark corner begin to tremble and shake. Out of the darkness and under the stage lights whirled a human tornado of fists and boots. As two Bacon Countyans beat each other slap into 1975, we just kept watching and playing Peaceful Easy Feeling by the Eagles. That was it. That was probably the night right there. There was a time when I was young and life was full of wondrous possibilities. Dreams were catchable and music was always playing. Billy Ray Heron and I had been playing and writing songs together ever since he signed my 1971 senior yearbook. As he said, "We have seen many suns set together, and we will see many more." That sounded more like a great Seminole Indian chief until he says, "I wish you'd go to South Georgia College next year with me so we could put our record collections together." Well, college never worked out for either of us. Music was far more important. So we set out together to find our muse. Waycross, Georgia was a hot spot, as I figure many towns across America were after we became aware of the Beatles in 1964. Garage bands sprung up in every neighborhood, and local teen dances were a Friday night tradition in Waycross. We had a radio DJ at WACL by the name of Johnny B, who promoted local dances and bands. Along with him was a Waycross High teenager turned promoter by the name of Greg Haynes, who wrote a fine, big book about his exploits called The Hey Baby Days of Beach Music. I didn't pick up a guitar until I was a senior in high school, thus missing out on all the fabulous, sweaty 60s teen dances at the Waycross City Auditorium, Rec Center, and National Guard Armory. Bands were everywhere, with names like the Faux Pas, Backstreet Society, the Changing Times, the Riots, Our Gang, and the Wandering Souls. By 1974, Billy Ray was married to Becky Campbell, a beautiful girl whose father was a rambling musician and a painter with a gypsy spirit. Jim Campbell could play a guitar and had a lot of stories to tell, having played with Conway Twitty and others. One afternoon that year, we sat in Billy Ray's trailer dreaming about the band we were going to put together. Jim Campbell's gold-topped Les Paul was laying on the bed. I picked it up and played a little lick from Ramblin' Man, at which Billy Ray espoused, "You'll be our lead guitar player." Oh, yeah. I'm about as much of a lead guitar player as Bruce Jenner is a woman. But these were the days when dreams were real and nothing seemed impossible. We chose the name Sweetbriar after a rose that grows wild in the Okefenokee Swamp, a vast, muggy wilderness that looms large in our little town of Waycross. Billy Ray's mama, May Heron, loaned us the money to outfit ourselves, so we drove straight to Paulus Music in downtown Jacksonville, Florida, returning with a custom PA system, 2 casino guitar amps that you could set up a house in, they were so big, and a Fender Stratocaster for each of us. After we added a couple pipe fitters from Plant Hatch in Baxley, Danny Altman, a classmate of ours from Ware County High School on drums, and Harry Tank Tankersley on bass guitar, Sweetbriar was complete. There we are. That's Danny Altman on the left, Tank, myself, and Billy Ray. There was a little block building behind Billy Ray's trailer that we used for rehearsals. The neighbors were more than supportive until we pushed the envelope a little too far late one night when James Thornton showed up in his boxer shorts with his pillow hair, wielding a flashlight that he would have used on any of us if we didn't pull the plug. By October of '74, the band had grown with the addition of Joe Shear, a true lead guitarist with spectacular vocals, and 16-year-old Ricky Alderman, a self-taught piano player that we begged not to sing. There we are. That's top left to right, Billy Ray, Danny, and me, and Joe on the bottom, and Ricky and Tank. Ricky's father managed a local business and had found an old upright piano in a warehouse he had purchased. He brought it home, tuned it, and Ricky turned it into an after-school obsession, channeling Chuck Leavell and Keith Emerson until he was quite proficient and worthy of the Waycross music scene. We had business cards printed, used the services of a regional booking agent, and began harvesting the fruits of our labor. Many of our early and only bookings were staged in Alma, Georgia, a town known for its delicious blueberries and dubious sheriffs. From high school homecoming dances to small town civic parties, we began to build a small following. Eventually, we found ourselves looking for a new drummer and bass player. Monty Cardin, son of a Blackshear dentist and local high school algebra teacher, Tom Amendola, were pulled into the fold. Drummer Monty Cardin was a seasoned veteran, formerly of the Henchmen, a Waycross garage band managed by Judy Seymour, a young Waycross teen and future wife of Leonard Skinner's lead singer, Ronnie Van Zant. Tom Amendola had never played a lick of bass guitar in his life. He was accomplished on a 6-string acoustic, though, so we taught him. He memorized the bass part to every song in our repertoire and did a damn fine job. Bands are much like marriages, but instead of being wed to one person, you're wed to 3 or more. And as in marriages, sometimes you look at somebody wrong, or you kick your snare drum across the room and eventually part ways. But from 1974 to 1975, Sweetbriar was the first country rock group out of Waycross.
Cool.
Have mercy. We had some times, and we've had a time tonight. Folks, we appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate you, Alan, for being our guest tonight. And we appreciate you putting us on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for answering my questions.
Yeah. And folks, you can read this article in the latest edition of Okefenokee Living Magazine, free at most business outlets in and around Waycross and Ware County and Pierce County. And we do hope you'll continue watching Something in the Water podcast. We appreciate that. And we urge you to step on over to patreon.com, where you'll find our Something in the Water Deep In podcast.
That's right.
You have to pay $5 a month, but it's well worth it. Because as my son Connor says, it's well worth it.
Oh, it's well worth it.
Thank y'all. We'll see you next time.